Picture this. An unassuming woman, zero family history, no traditional connections to horse racing. Bursts onto the scene and starts winning big races. And not always with the expensive blue blood horses, but often with claimed horses, horses others had basically given up on.
Yeah, imagine the shockwaves in that kind of, well, male-dominated old money industry.
Exactly.
That's quite the image, isn't it? And that's our focus today, Kay Vaughan. We've got a stack of sources here, including this biography they called her Wonder Woman, detailing her pretty remarkable life and career, mostly at Longacres Racetrack near Seattle back in the 70s and 80s.
Right. So our mission here is to really dig into these sources and figure out the how. How did Kay, this complete outsider, pull off such extraordinary success? What was her unique path? What made her approach different?
And the challenges she must have faced, yeah. How did she juggle this incredibly demanding career with, life on a farm, raising a family?
We'll pull out the compelling facts, those revealing anecdotes, and the surprising details that really paint a picture of the woman who ended up with that Wonder Woman nickname.
Should be fascinating.
So, okay, before she was Wonder Woman of the backstretch, who was Kay Vaughan, what do the sources tell us about her background?
Well, the sources paint a picture of someone who grew up in small towns, North Dakota, California, but definitely had ambitions beyond that. She was pretty athletic in high school, played basketball, volleyball.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Before marrying Fred, she worked jobs like administrative stuff at UC Berkeley and then later in a medical lab in Seattle. So practical experience, but not horses.
And Fred Vaughan. His background seems similar, small-town roots, but with this real drive for, intellectual stuff.
That's right. Fred was from a small town in Washington, got his physics degree from UW, University of Washington, became a really accomplished electronics research engineer at Boeing.
Wow, Boeing.
Yeah. The sources mention he actually had patented inventions, published technical papers, even in parallel computing. So you've got these two people, both from pretty modest backgrounds, but clearly, driven and smart.
Okay. And they met in Seattle, married in '62. The sources say they moved around a bit at first for Fred's work.
Los Angeles, Montana. And there's a detail that Kay was actually the main breadwinner for a while when Fred was doing grad studies.
Right, I saw that.
Yeah, it's in the book. They eventually settled back near Seattle, Fred working for Boeing Aerospace. But early in their marriage, they faced a pretty significant personal tragedy.
The sources mention her younger brother Jack, his illness and death.
Yeah, that's a really sad part of the story. Jack was only 24, died of Hodgkin's disease, and he'd been Fred's best man at the wedding.
Oh.
Kay was apparently very close to him, so a big loss.
And they were starting their own family around then, too.
Yes, exactly. Their daughter, Nola, was born in 1969, and then their son, Sean, in 1974. So you can see Kay was managing, the complexities of family life right alongside what eventually became this all-consuming passion for horses.
And the source material shows that initial passion wasn't even about racing, right? Started way simpler.
It really did. Late 60s, they just bought 2 horses from Kay's brother and his wife. One was a thoroughbred, the other just a riding horse, purely for pleasure riding.
So just for fun.
Totally. They had ridden a bit as kids, apparently, but had zero experience with thoroughbreds or, the whole racing world.
Which led to the big move.
Yeah.
The farm.
Yes. They found this 22-acre place in Enumclaw, southeast of Seattle, moved there with the horses in '68. The book actually notes it was their 6th wedding anniversary.
Huh. Quite the anniversary present indeed. And it's on this farm, now with thoroughbreds in the picture, that the idea of racing starts to bubble up.
It started with breeding, actually. In 1970, they decided, okay, let's breed our thoroughbred mares, Bridal Star and Sugar Tree. And Fred, with his research brain,
Slides right in.
Totally dives into pedigrees. The book says he even completed a 16-generation pedigree for their first foal, a filly they named Paraceline.
16 generations. Wow.
Yeah. And they also bred a colt named Domino Theory.
Paraceline Domino Theory.
Sounds like they put some careful thought into those names, maybe reflecting that intellectual side you mentioned.
Could be. So with these 2 homebred racehorse prospects on the ground, the sources say they became intrigued with the idea of racing them. And this, according to the book, is where Kay's personal dream really started to, well, the book uses the word metastasize.
Metastasize, strong word.
Yeah. The dream of training them herself.
But they didn't jump right into her training them. No. They hired professional trainers first. Frank Spindor, then Jay Mills. But apparently they weren't happy with the progress the horses were making, and it was complicated, expensive.
Right.
The sources say Fred was actually ready to just abandon the whole racing idea at this point. He'd had a severe ulcer problem, too, which probably didn't help.
So Fred, the practical engineer, is thinking, let's cut our losses. But Kay, she felt something else.
That's the pivotal moment the sources describe.
Yeah.
Kay's dream had, as they put it, metastasized. She became completely convinced she could do a better job training them herself.
Wow.
And she was insistent,
Yeah.
really pushed for it. And eventually she convinced Fred. That was the defining decision, really, the start of it all.
Okay, so Kay makes this huge commitment. She's going to train, but stepping into that world, Longacres, the backstretch,
Yeah.
it's established, male-dominated. She's a total outsider. How did she even get her foot in the door? Getting stalls seems like the first hurdle.
It absolutely was. And part of it, apparently, was just her being good with the horses. She impressed Art McCready. He was the official starter there.
Okay, by how confidently she handled their colt, Prince Caligula. He was a bit feisty, apparently, and she was loading him into a van for the first time. McCready saw her competence and actually helped her arrange for stalls with the racing secretary, Steve O'Donnell.
Wow, so her skill was obvious right away. That's a great little detail.
It really is. So, stalls secured. Next step, the trainer's license. The sources say she passed the test. Horses, track rules. That stuff didn't find it too difficult.
But passing the test is one thing, right? Mastering the job is another. What did the sources say was the hardest part for her once she was actually on the track?
Yeah, she found understanding the sheer range of horse ailments and injuries the toughest part. Things like, flu, sore shins, bone chips are a big one. Tendon problems, bleeding issues, colic. Just recognizing them quickly and knowing the right way to treat them, that took constant learning.
And navigating the track culture. The book describes it as having its own unique dynamics.
Oh, definitely. The sources touch on the human side of things. Trainers getting edgy, maybe a bit secretive. Sure.
Jockey agents, trying to get the best rides for their clients. The whole complicated process of how races are drawn. There's this telling story from her first year.
Yeah.
Steve O'Donnell, the racing secretary, apparently told her flat out, "You don't have any Sunday horses." Basically saying her horses weren't good enough for the bigger weekend races.
Ouch.
Yeah. But the book mentions she stood up for Prince Caligula, defended his quality, and later O'Donnell apparently recognized the colt was good and apologized.
Good for her. So she had to learn the animal side, the medical side, and the human politics all at once.
Did she have much help right at the beginning?
She did get some key support, yeah. The sources mentioned Bert Goddard. He agreed to be the program trainer before she got her official license. That meant his name was on the program, but Kay could do the actual hands-on training.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
And she hired exercise writers like Alana Goff and Lacey Warwick, who were obviously crucial. And Fred, her husband, pitched in as her groom in those early days. Let's talk about her actual training methods. What made her philosophy stand out? The sources really emphasize she worked her horses harder than a lot of other trainers.
Yeah, this seems to be a really central point in the book. Apparently other trainers would tell her straight up, that won't work, or maybe they thought she wasn't working them hard enough in some ways. But Kay's view, according to the sources, was the opposite.
She thought they weren't working horses hard enough.
Exactly. She believed good horses can take it, and that really rigorous work was essential to bring out their absolute best performance.
And the sources call her a stickler for workouts. What did that actually look like day to day?
Well, the book details this very systematic approach she had. Every spring, she'd start by legging them up. It's a gradual process, building their speed and stamina over distance.
Right.
She was apparently meticulous about how often they worked, how far they went, kept really careful records. And a key part of her thinking was that a properly fit horse was actually less likely to get injured.
That's interesting. Hard work is injury prevention almost.
Sort of, yeah. Build the support structure.
Another thing the sources really highlight is her signature strategy, the come-from-behind style.
Oh, yeah. That was absolutely a defining characteristic of her stable, how her horses ran their races. She trained them specifically to relax in the early part of the race, save their energy, and then unleash this powerful elite run in the final stretch.
So instead of sending them flying out of the gate, they'd hang back.
Often, yeah. The book says it sometimes required forcibly pulling them back early on, just to teach them to settle and relax.
Must take a specific kind of jockey, too.
It did. The book notes jockeys like Dale Bays were really good at executing that strategy for her, and it was definitely a contrast to a lot of trainers who just trained their horses to go flat out from the start, send them.
And the sources say bettors started picking up on something because of this rigorous training.
They did. The word got around the track pretty quickly. If one of Kay's horses was entered in a race, especially early in the season, it was ready to run. While other trainers might still be bringing their horses along, getting them fit, hers were ready to go right out of the box.
Okay, so her training built fitness, a distinct style. But the legend of Wonder Woman, that seems really forged in the claiming game. How do the sources explain that part of her success?
Well, the book describes claiming as fundamental to how things worked at Longacres. It's a specific type of race where, before the race starts, any licensed owner or trainer can put in a claim, basically an offer to buy one of the horses running for a predetermined price.
You have to decide before the race even runs.
Yep. You put your claim in usually up to 15 minutes before post time. If your claim is the only one, or you win a shake if there are multiple claims, you own the horse after the race, win or lose.
Wow, okay. So you could literally buy a horse right out of a race.
Exactly. And Kay first learned the ropes, really, because other trainers started claiming her horses. They saw her horses running well and figured, hey, I can do even better with that one.
Ah, so she learned by being on the receiving end first.
Seems like it. And then she turned the tables.
What made her so good at it? What was her edge?
The sources point to this exceptional eye she developed for potential. Her decisions weren't just random guesses. She did serious research into pedigrees, looking for those stakes-quality ancestors, especially on the dam side, the female line.
Okay.
She'd watch the morning workouts closely, spotting talent others might overlook, and crucially, she looked for horses that she thought were being raced with the wrong strategy.
Meaning, like those speed horses you mentioned. The ones that went fast early but faded.
Precisely. Horses with early speed that just died in the stretch. Kay could apparently visualize how that same horse might perform under her training program, using that come-from-behind style to make that speed count at the end of the race.
And the book talks about her being right there in the paddock before a race, literally checking the horse out.
Yeah, minutes before the race, giving them a final look over, checking their conformation, their soundness, right before that 15-minute claiming deadline. Her real success came from taking these, relatively inexpensive claimed horses and developing them into allowance winners, even stakes winners. Often she'd only race them a couple of times before they were claimed away from her for a much higher price. That generated serious income for the stable.
That's the economic engine right there.
Okay.
And the nickname is tied into this.
Directly. The sources trace Wonder Woman back to Bud Klokstad, another trainer. He apparently used it sarcastically after Kay claimed a couple of good stakes winners from him, TV Return and Honey Blaze.
Oh, so it started as sarcasm.
That's the story. But Kay kept doing it so successfully. Like with Honey Blaze, the book says she claimed her for $8,000. The horse earned $13,000 for Kay and then was claimed away from Kay for $16,000. Big profit. So the name stuck.
Wow.
And it quickly shifted from sarcasm to, genuine respect and admiration in the press and around the track.
She basically took a sarcastic jab and turned it into a badge of honor.
Pretty much. And the book also mentions she was savvy enough to claim fillies with strong pedigrees like Stony River and TV Return, not just for racing, but thinking ahead to their value as broodmares later on, adding that residual value.
This all sounds incredibly exciting, very successful, but the sources also dedicate space to the dreams and heartache. It wasn't just a smooth ride to the top, was it?
Oh, far from it. The book really emphasizes that this business is just extreme ups and downs, constant. There were absolute major disappointments.
Like injuries.
Yeah, devastating injuries to promising horses. Prince Caligula, that early colt, had leg issues that really limited his career. Phaeton's Phantom and another horse, Big Calig, developed severe bone chips.
The sources quote a vet describing Big Calig's knee.
Yeah, it's a stark quote. The vet apparently said it looked like a hand grenade went off in there. Yeah. I mean, imagine the gut punch for a trainer. Seeing all that potential just shattered in an instant. They also sometimes had to sell horses at a loss, like Cuidado Jan's full sister, Introduce Me. She just didn't take to racing. Thankfully, she found a second career as a jumper.
That's good, at least.
But yeah, the book mentions Fred got to the point where he'd almost dread hearing Kay mention that horse because it so often meant bad news, an injury, a setback.
And Kay was often the one dealing with the fallout directly.
Seems like it. The sources describe her frequently handling the day-to-day care for the injured horses herself, nursing them back, carrying that emotional burden of constant setbacks.
And the work itself.
Yeah.
Just inherently dangerous.
Absolutely. You're working with 1,200-pound animals. They can be unpredictable. It's a constant risk. The book mentions injuries to both Kay and Fred over the years, and there's this particularly harrowing incident described.
Yeah.
Exercise rider Julie Nethercott was really badly injured, kicked by a horse right before a race where Kay's promising 2-year-old Short Socks was the favorite.
Oh, no. That must have just devastated the whole barn.
Totally. Julie needed multiple surgeries, and yet the machine has to keep going, right? Kay had owners to answer to, staff depending on her, other horses needing care, all while dealing with the trauma of the accident and needing to visit Julie in the hospital. It just highlights how relentless that life is.
And while all this intensity is happening at the track, life's still going on back at the farm. The sources use this great phrase, "meanwhile back on the ranch," to capture that duality.
It really was two distinct worlds, wasn't it? And the farm wasn't just home base, it was integral to the operation. The breeding and foaling happened there, usually in the spring, which is right when the busy track training season kicks off.
So Kay's already demanding track schedule was layered right on top of managing the farm.
Pretty much. And Fred played such a crucial role there. He was managing the farm stuff daily alongside his full-time demanding engineering job at Boeing. He handled all the feeding, letting horses in and out of different pastures. The book has this great description of him being knee-deep in mud 6 months of the year. He dealt with stuff like frozen pipes, which famously led to the whole family spending Christmas in a motel one year.
That Christmas motel story, it really makes the challenges feel relatable, doesn't it?
It really does. But despite the crazy schedules on both fronts, the sources say they consciously made time for family stuff, traditions. Halloween costumes, celebrating Nola's birthday right after Christmas, the kids doing the classic Christmas present snooping.
Nice.
They weren't religious, the book notes, but they absolutely instilled strong values, the golden rule, knowing right from wrong, and this clear expectation that their kids would work hard, excel, and definitely go to university.
And there's a particularly charming animal story from the farm years, isn't there?
Yeah.
Buddy the dog.
Oh, Buddy. He's a fantastic character that pops up in the sources. He was just a stray who showed up one day, initially caused a bit of trouble, chewed some hoses. But then he somehow became this indispensable part of the morning routine. He started herding the horses for Fred. Fred would just yell, "Get him out, Buddy!" And Buddy, who'd figured out the horses' patterns, would gather them up from the water trough and get them back to their pasture.
Wow. And the book knows how dangerous that actually was for a dog.
Incredibly dangerous. I mean, these are big thoroughbreds. He could have easily been kicked or trampled. But he was just incredibly good at it. And there's this wonderful story about him going missing once.
Oh, no.
They were frantic. And Kay had this clever idea to, check animal control. But she told Fred specifically, "I would like to rescue that dog. Don't tell them that he's ours."
Uh-huh. Why?
They hadn't licensed him. She wanted to avoid the fine, so she goes down there and successfully rescues their own dog.
That's brilliant.
And Buddy lived with them for years, apparently even adjusted well to city life when they eventually retired from the farm.
That story just says so much about their connection to their animals and their resourcefulness, too. And Fred's support went beyond just the farm work.
Oh, yeah. He'd often go to the track after his Boeing workday to help Kay care for the horses. And the book shares this funny, maybe slightly relatable parenting moment.
Let's hear it.
Fred would sometimes be so deep in thought after a long day, driving home, that he'd apparently forget to pick up Sean from the babysitters. Kay would get in the car, look around and say, "Where's Sean?" And Fred would have to sheepishly turn around and go back.
Oh, the abstracted parent moment. Classic. And the kids, Nola and Sean, they were part of the horse world, too.
Yeah, in their own ways. They were sometimes at the track, and they'd actually ride some of the race horses on the farm, just for fun. Horses like Introduce Me, Fazette, Zulu Darling.
Okay, so all this incredible hard work, the unique methods, the claiming strategy to really culminates in some explosive years. None more so, it seems, than 1982. The sources call it the award-winning explosion.
Yeah, 82 was the year things just clicked into overdrive. Her horses were incredibly fit, ready to go right at the start of the season. That gave them a huge advantage when a lot of other stables were still getting their horses into shape, maybe having to drop them down in class to get a win.
Opening day wasn't perfect, though, I read.
No, that's right. Royal Turn, one of her horses getting some press attention, actually had kind of a disappointing run, got banged up in the starting gate, but that seemed to be the exception.
The rest of the stable was firing.
Oh, yeah. Wins came fast, back-to-back wins right away for Terzarima and Mondaloo. Royal Turn actually came back the very next day and won, got his vindication. Transition Machine won and was claimed away. And then Mondaloo won the Fashion Handicap. That was huge, her first states win, and it was against a really heavily favored horse.
Well, first stakes win. Her strategy was clearly paying dividends. And the claiming game, that got even more intense.
It really heated up. Terzarima and the Little Turk got claimed out of her barn, which actually provided capital. Then Kay went on a claiming spree, musical tide, royal secret, who she claimed, won with immediately, and then he was claimed back right away.
Crazy, like musical chairs with horses?
Totally. It was this constant cycle, find the potential, capitalize on it, reinvest.
And more stakes wins followed that year.
Oh, yes. She claimed a horse named Unparalleled less than a week before he went out and just romped in the Washington Stallion Stakes. Won easily. That win got a lot of press, and it really cemented Wonder Woman as a positive, respected nickname.
Okay.
She also claimed Big Flyer around that time, and he turned out to be a major stakes horse for her.
But even in this banner year, the sources remind us of the risks with that short socks incident.
Yeah, that incident with Julie Nethercott, the exercise writer, is such a stark reminder. Short Socks was this really promising 2-year-old filly, was the heavy favorite for a race. But right before the race, she got spooked by another horse, bolted, and Julie was severely injured in the accident.
That's terrible.
It just shows how quickly things can go wrong, even when everything else seems to be going perfectly. The book does note that Julie eventually recovered enough to return to work, but she needed glasses after the injury.
And meanwhile, her homebred horses were also starting to make noise.
Yes. Red Baron returns, remember him. The colt whose legs were so crooked at birth, the vet suggested putting him down.
Right.
Well, he emerged as a serious racehorse, won easily. The sources mentioned he had this really distinctive rocking horse motion when he ran, and apparently he was incredibly hard for jockeys to pull up after a race. He just wanted to keep running.
What a character. And the absolute peak of this incredible year.
Had to be winning the $100,000 Gottstein Futurity. That was the richest race for 2-year-olds in the region. And she won it with Big Flyer, the horse she'd claimed earlier.
McLean winning the big one.
Exactly. And the book notes, he was definitely not among the horses the expert opinion thought had much of a chance beforehand. But Kay had him primed. The sources described the excitement. Gary Bays's great ride. Huge win.
The statistics for 1982, looking back, they're just remarkable, according to the sources.
They're really astounding. Out of only 13 horses in her stable that year, she saddled 8 stakes winners. 6 of those wins came in 1982 alone. Her overall win rate was 21%, which was the best at Longacres for any trainer with 20 or more starts.
Incredible consistency.
Yeah. And for all that, she won the Washington Outstanding Trainer Award and the Steve O'Donnell Inspiration Award. The book mentions how incredibly proud her kids were.
Okay, building on that incredible momentum, 1983 brings continued success and that legendary Derby upset.
Yes. By 83, Kay's reputation was solidified. She was training significantly more horses for outside owners now. People wanted their horses with her. Her own horses were actually the minority in her barn entries that year.
That shows the demand for her skills, right?
Yeah.
And the winning continued with that bigger stable.
It did. Red Baron Returns won the Wenatchee Apple Blossom Stakes early on. There was more success in the claiming game. Horses like Reclusive Ascent winning, Toss M twice getting claimed, the usual churn.
But the win. The defining win of 83 had to be the Longacres Derby.
Oh, absolutely the highlight. Red Baron returns again. That same homebred colt, the one almost euthanized, wins the $100,000 Grade III Longacres Derby.
Grade III, okay.
And he went off at, get this, 53-1 odds.
53-1? You're kidding?
Nope. Total long shot. And the way he won, he came from 26 lengths off the pace in the stretch. Just flew by them all to win by 2.5 lengths.
26 lengths. At 53-1 in a Grade III. That's the stuff of movies.
It's truly one of the legendary upsets in Northwest racing history, and obviously it generated massive press coverage. But the sources highlight this interesting contrast in their reactions.
How so?
Well, lots of excitement, obviously, about Vaughan's 53-1 shot, but also some indignation from certain parts of the press. The book mentions one columnist, Steve Kelly, wrote this kind of rant that was clearly pretty upset by the result, questioning how it could happen.
So her success wasn't always celebrated, maybe. The sources call it the new reality of an ever-present press and the scrutiny she faced.
That seems to be the point the book makes, yeah. She was under a microscope now. But look, by the end of 83, she had 39 wins at the Longacres meet, 3 stakes wins. The Vaughans were the leading owners again, even though most horses weren't theirs. Fred actually took a leave of absence from Boeing then to help manage the bigger operation.
Makes sense.
And they started expanding, sending horses to race at other tracks too, like Yakima, even down to Southern California with Lacey Warwick overseeing them there.
And the book indicates this high level of success, this bigger operation, it continued rolling right into the mid-'80s.
It definitely did. In 1984, as a sign of her status, Longacres assigned her one of the large 30-stall new barns. That's prime real estate on the backstretch. She was training for several prominent stables by then, like Jill Heronsberger's Champagne Ladies outfit.
Which led to even more wins, presumably.
Oh, yeah. She racked up 50 wins in 1984 alone. That made her the second leading trainer at the entire Longacres meet that year. And this winning streak continued right on into 1985.
And then, the source material notes a shift. Something changes around 1988.
Yeah, the book points out that the win photos, which are used as source illustrations throughout, they stop appearing after early July 1988. And that time frame seems to mark the period when Kay began consciously transitioning towards retirement, and they started the process of selling off their racing and breeding stock.
So what does the book tell us about Wonder Woman's life after the track?
Yeah.
What prompted the retirement?
Well, there were a few key factors. Her health was a major one. The sources mentioned issues that actually started back in 1982, severe gynecological problems, anemia, just constant fatigue. These had gotten significantly worse over time, leading to surgery in 1987.
Ah, okay, that takes a toll.
For sure. And also, the looming reality of Longacres closing played a role. The track was eventually sold and closed for development in 1992, but the writing was on the wall before that.
So it was kind of a confluence of factors, a necessary transition maybe, not just a sudden, I quit.
Seems that way. They systematically downsized the whole operation, sold horses privately, some through claiming races, and had a final dispersal sale for the breeding stock. Sold off all the equipment, horse walkers, trailers, everything. And they moved from the big farm in Enumclaw to a suburb closer to Seattle.
But the book makes it really clear she didn't just stop. Her energy didn't vanish.
Not a chance. The sources are quite emphatic about that. She absolutely did not slow down. She took up snow skiing.
Seriously, after racing.
Yep. And according to her friend Marie, quoted in the book, it only took Kay about a year to start skiing all the runs. Marie adds, nothing is going to stop her once Kay puts her mind to something.
Wow.
Then she took up rollerblading. And apparently, she wasn't just sticking to the flat, easy paths. No, she'd deliberately find the steepest hills and go straight down. The book just says nothing scared her.
That competitive drive, that fearlessness.
Yeah.
It just found new outlets, didn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. And with Fred retiring from Boeing in 1997, they finally got to really indulge their dream of traveling extensively, took real vacations, not just quick trips between races.
Where do they go?
Places like the UK, Ireland, New Zealand, multiple times. They'd rent cars and just explore everywhere, really get off the beaten path. They even self-published a diary and sketchbook from one of their New Zealand trips.
That's lovely.
And the book includes some funny travel stories, too, like Kay meticulously peeling oranges in airport lounges for energy, Fred trying to use his rusty high school French as a translator, apparently once mistranslating a nun's comment as, "Don't feed the pigeons," which was completely wrong. And a less funny one about Kay's wallet getting stolen on one trip, just, real travel experiences.
And they found another shared competitive passion later on.
They did. They took up competitive bridge, and both became life masters, which is a serious achievement in the bridge world. This also led to a whole new, close-knit group of friends they called the Bande de Sept, who they even traveled with sometimes.
That's great. And the sources also touch on their children's success, too, carrying on that expectation of excellence.
Yes, absolutely. Nola and Sean both went on to become successful professionals, built their own families, really excelled in their chosen fields. The book quotes Nola reflecting thoughtfully on how her parents just expected them both to work hard and succeed without any gender distinction, and how grateful she was for that, especially given the lingering sexism in society back then. And it touches on Sean's path, including standing up for a friend, facing bullying over religious beliefs, and his own later interest in Zen Buddhism.
And their high school achievements are noted, too. Shows that drive started early.
Oh yeah, the book details their accomplishments. Both were really active and successful. Academics, athletics, leadership. Nola was top 10 in her class. ASB treasurer, ran track. Sean starred in football and basketball. Was ASB vice president, honor society president. Got all league academic and athletic honors.
Wow, impressive kids.
Definitely. Nola went to UW. Sean juggled school, work, and being a young father while getting his degree. And now, the sources mention, Kay's grandchildren are pursuing their own paths as well.
And even deep into retirement, the horses weren't completely gone, were they?
No, not entirely. There's this little detail in the sources about Kay seeing thoroughbreds grazing in Yorkshire during a trip to England, and just that connection was still there,
Yeah.
you know? That deep appreciation for the breed remained.
So there you have it, the really incredible journey of Kay Vaughan. From this total outsider with a dream, navigating a tough, established world, to becoming this celebrated trainer, this Wonder Woman, known for her unique methods, her amazing eye for hidden potential, and her mastery of that claiming game.
Yeah, her rise wasn't just about the wins, was it? It was about sheer determination, this deep, maybe intuitive understanding of the horses, incredible resilience facing those devastating setbacks, and just an unwavering belief in her own way of doing things, even when everyone else doubted her.
It was clearly a life lived at absolute full throttle. Required unbelievable dedication, not just from Kay, but from Fred, from her kids supporting that demanding lifestyle. You've heard about those exhilarating highs, Derby wins, stake success, and the crushing lows of injuries, losses, the constant, ever-present danger, and that deep, complex bond she clearly shared with those powerful, sometimes unpredictable animals.
And the sources leave us with this really powerful image right near the end. Years after she's retired, Kay has this incredibly vivid, kind of unsettling dream
Yeah.
about an old horse, a dangerous race. A trainer she sees is in a wheelchair, just this intense symbolic vision.
Hmm. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What does it truly take to live that kind of life so completely? To
Mhm.
push yourself and these amazing animals to those absolute physical and emotional limits? And what kind of deep, indelible mark does that work, that intensity, that connection leave on a person even long, long after they've walked away from the backstretch for the last time?
Definitely something to ponder. The lasting impact of living such a demanding passion so fully.